All right, folks, if I could call the meeting to order. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, February the 12th, 2019. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask Councilman Lee Dumas, if he would, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and then an invocation for council following that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this night that you've given us, and we thank you for the rainy days because it helps us to appreciate the sunshine that's yet to come. Lord, thank you specifically for this city, for the people that live here, that do business here, and especially, Lord, for our employees, those that serve us, and specifically for David, Aaron, and Reggie, and Suzette tonight as they're recognized. Lord, continue to bless the city, go with us, and give this council wisdom and guidance, and help us to always do your will. In your name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Council, with that, we'll move to public forum. Ms. Duncan, anyone to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
Council, the item following that would be minutes of the council meeting. You have the minutes from January 22nd in your packet. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Airwood?
Yes.
Ms. Booker? Yes. Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, we have got employee recognition this evening, as we are often want to do. We take time to recognize those folks that have reached milestones in their service to the city. It is one of the small ways that we acknowledge our employees and are able to thank them for their years of service and all that they do to help us. I'm going to read the resolution and then ask Mr. Driggers, if he will, to join us in the front, and we'll recognize these folks. This is resolution number 1-2019, a resolution recognizing and commending City of Greer employees. Whereas the City of Greer endeavors to recognize and reward its dedicated and faithful employees, and whereas David Holtzclaw has served in the Parks and Recreation Department for 5 years, Aaron McCown has served in the Municipal Court for 5 years, Reggie Waddell has served in the Parks and Recreation Department for 10 years, and Suzette Kimmons has served in the Municipal Court for 20 years. Whereas these employees have served in a distinguished and professional manner, now be it therefore resolved that the City Council of the City of Greer, South Carolina, in a meeting duly assembled, wishes to officially recognize and commend these employees for the dedicated and distinguished service for which they have performed. Be it further resolved that the City of Greer hereby rewards these dedicated employees with a certificate of appreciation and an administrative day off with pay approved this 12th day of February 2019. Mr. Driggers, if you would join me in the front. We will. When we call your name, if you would, come to the front and stay with us for just a minute so we can recognize you. David Holtzclaw, 5 years with the Parks and Recreation Department. Yes. Suzette Kimmons. Suzette has 20 years with us. No experience. Thank you very much. And I believe Reggie was unable to join us, as well as so give these folks a big round of applause. Council, it is our pleasure tonight to welcome an old friend, Mr. Alan Smith, who is the president and CEO of the Spartanburg Chamber of Commerce and served us so well for a number of years. And Mr. Carter Smith are here from the Chamber to give us an update on Spartanburg County momentum. And so it looks like Mr. Carter is making his way down front. Alan is at the podium. We appreciate you gentlemen coming and giving us the update. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that play-by-play. Also appreciate the opportunity to be here, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and also want to say, just as a point of personal privilege, I do appreciate this community really on a daily basis for taking a chance on a 28-year-old unproven kid from Eastern North Carolina. My time here in Greer was something that I will cherish my entire life. I had an opportunity to meet David, the new chamber president, and I told him that he has come into a very unique and special community, made unique and special by its people. So I appreciate, again, the opportunity that this community afforded me. We are incredibly excited about what's happening in Spartanburg County. This slide is very important because this slide demonstrates the unique nature of our organization. We are the only organization we can tell in North, South Carolina, Southeast, perhaps the country, that has combined 5 entities, one Spartanburg, the Downtown Development Partnership, Chamber, Economic Futures Group, and then the Convention and Visitors Bureau, all under one roof. Manhattan, Kansas has 3 development entities, but in Spartanburg we have 5, and it speaks to our collaborative nature. So what I'm going to do tonight is spend about 45 minutes on each entity. Now I'll be by myself, right? So we're going to try to keep this as brief as we can and want to offer the time for council to ask us any questions. I do have the Executive Vice President of the Economic Futures Group with me tonight. He's going to cover the Economic Futures Group portion of the presentation. As I mentioned, there's 5 entities. 4 fall under the umbrella of the Chamber of Commerce. Very briefly, I'll speak about the Chamber and some of its recent wins here of late. These are just some of our membership metrics. I think it's important, since the city of Greer, part of the city of Greer exists in Spartanburg County, to understand the enormity of the big step that we took forward in November of 2017, and the Chamber of Commerce was proud to lead the campaign to approve the penny referendum. And so what is a penny referendum in Spartanburg County? What is it going to do? First of all, it was approved 63 to 37%. It carried 85 of 93 precincts. Over 6 years, it will result in $224 million, a 330,000 square foot new courthouse, South Carolina's only city-county joint municipal complex, a new emergency operations center, and 2 new parking garages totaling 1,600 parking spaces, all in downtown Spartanburg. And so we're very happy. This is the example of private investment following public investment in a downtown. And so we're very excited about what that public investment is going to do for our community. Even more excited that the Chamber had the ability to lead that campaign. Right now we have 2 of our districts that just passed successful referendums. So District 2 and District 7 combined are doing $305 million of capital improvement projects. Spartanburg High School will be a $124 million project, and that will be open for enrollment this year. So, and they tell me that the stadium's going to be just as big as Dorman's, if that tells you anything. I guess we're in an arms race. So the Chamber obviously is very active as it relates to advocacy, and those have been a couple of our wins lately. If you ask any business, whether the business has 2 people or has 5,000 people, they will tell you their number 1 issue is talent. In Spartanburg County, we have 1.2 jobs for every person. We do not have a people looking for jobs problem. We have jobs looking for people problem. So the Chamber is committed to talent development, retention, and attraction, one of our core focuses. These are some of the signature events that the Chamber plans and implements. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Economic Development Division, and that is the Economic Futures Group led by our Executive Vice President, Carter Smith.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Again, as Alan said, very thrilled to be here. You spend a lot of time in Greer and in this area, obviously, is key to our successes from an economic development standpoint. And I would like to say that I truly appreciate the working relationship that I have with Reno and the Greer Development Corporation and with Ed and the city admin there very much. Helps us move forward here. The Futures Group, I think most of you may know, just to reemphasize that we are a public-private partnership, and that is much like the Greer development, but it allows us to do a number of things quickly and move projects forward. That I can do better on this. I'll tell you a little bit about our 2018 commitments. We had an extremely good year. We've been on a very good roll the last few years, and you'll see a slide in a little bit that verifies that. I think that when you look at this here, we had 20 projects, just shy of $800 million worth of investment that will be coming into the county over the next few years. I think another interesting thing about this slide is that when you look at the companies, they're about 50-50. 50% of them are new to the area, 50% are existing companies that have found that Spartanburg County is a great place to do business and moving forward. And I think another interesting thing is y'all recognize it very much over here, and working with you through the years, I know that we have a tremendous international base in the area. And I think of these here, about 50% of those are international affiliated companies from a variety of areas there. Back the slide, and you can see that there. The companies from China to our traditional ones in Western Europe, just Japan, just a wide range across the globe. Again, position us very well on the global stage to continue to compete and do well. Our commitments, you can see that these are scattered throughout the county. A lot of them are west of I-26, as I call it, and again, very much around your area here. This is a tremendous area and continues to be in terms of growth and opportunities for companies to come in, and it's known as a place where we can get there. I think that obviously with the Greer Inland Port Facility, has brought us to a whole new level in terms of the type of projects and the size of projects that we see. And with that there, this gives you an idea of our target, our workloads that we see, and where we're spending our time and what projects are made of. So many times, we're trying to answer questions. Everybody thinks we're automotive and exclusively automotive simply because of BMW being here. But I think that as you can look at the breakdown here, you can see there are quite a number of areas that we're growing in. One is the logistics area, again, refers back to the inland port. We're seeing some growth in the office area, and then continue our strong emphasis in the manufacturing arena. One of the reasons that we are successful is because of product development. We spent a lot of time through the years on product development. This area over here has truly helped us with that, providing sites, developers providing facilities that we can look at and promote. And all of these are privately held, which is very good from a standpoint of the county on that end. So again, we're looking at probably a couple of million square feet that should be coming online this year or already online. So that will tremendously improve our success. And then just to wrap it up, just to give you an idea that we've been very consistent the last 5 years in terms of substantial economic dollars brought to the area and job opportunities. With that, I'll turn it back over to Alan and answer any questions at the end that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carter. Carter is incredibly humble, but from a comparative standpoint, I realize when you read the news today, people use millions and billions and trillions, but just to provide some perspective, in 17 and 18, Greenville and Spartanburg counties combined did $2.1 billion in investment. $1.6 billion of that investment was derived from Spartanburg County-based projects. Over the past 5 years, 24% or 24 cents of every dollar invested in South Carolina came from a Spartanburg County-based project. So Carter, again, is very humbled, but he is indeed one of the leading economic developers in the state of South Carolina. One Spartanburg is we are entering into year 3. We've just finished 2 years. This is our 5-year community and economic development strategy predicated on the feedback of 3,180 people. Some of those people were from Greer. One of the things we did is we partnered with the Spartanburg County Library System. We're very proud of this because we heard from people all throughout the county that we typically don't hear from, people in our communities that don't necessarily have a voice. We partnered with the library system, and what we did is if folks wanted to use the free Wi-Fi, they couldn't use the free Wi-Fi until they took our survey. So this was predicated on their feedback. Long story short, it's a 5-year initiative, $4.5 million initiative, which was fully funded in 60 days. It's focused on talent, place, image, and economy. These are some of the projects. There's 21 projects currently underway, all under talent, place, image, and economy. At the top of the economy slide, you'll see new corporate recruitment strategy released. You may have seen Carter's project mix had 6% office. We realized that we need to grow that attention within the Economic Futures Group, so we launched a white-collar corporate recruitment strategy after about an 8-month process of researching where we can be successful. So we launched that, and we've staffed it. Only been at it about a couple months and already encouraged by some of the activity that we've seen. Place, everyone knows now. This community knows how important place is. If you don't invest in place, then you might as well forget about recruiting talent. Image. We have to market our wins in Spartanburg. We have not been very good about that, but we are out there right now on social media. The One Spartanburg hashtag is performing incredibly well. So 42 strategic recommendations, 173 tactical recommendations within the One Spartanburg plan. Convention and Visitors Bureau, under our umbrella, this is sort of an unsung hero. People don't realize in South Carolina, tourism is a $20 billion industry, and it is certainly white hot in Spartanburg as well. The focus there obviously is visit versus stay. Executive Vice President of the Convention Visitors Bureau always says that we're interested in getting people to stay in Spartanburg. He's interested in getting people to visit and drop off a lot of money and then leave. So messaging is very important. You see by this slide that our destination has improved in terms of perception quite remarkably over a short amount of time. And again, I had no idea, Bert. We went from really no perception, in some cases a low perception, to people having a more positive perception of Spartanburg. These are some of the ads you may recognize at Zion Williamson, Spartanburg Day School. He's now the star for Duke and will probably go to the NBA next year. Attendance history, Panthers training camp, $13.2 million economic impact. 2017-2018, record year for tourism in Spartanburg County, $307 million economic impact. And we saw something that we never thought we would see. Charleston's Post and Courier did a story about the Spartanburg tourism market, and it touted 23% hotel product development growth. And again, that's a percentage basis, but when you look at the number of rooms that came online in Spartanburg in 2018, from a percentage standpoint, it was the highest growth in terms of hotel product in the state of South Carolina. 7 new hotels were announced or opened last year in Spartanburg County. And then our downtown development partnership. The most commonly used word by those 3,200 people that took the One Spartanburg survey was downtown. They were asked the question, if you were to leave Spartanburg and you came back in 10 years, what would you want to see improve the most? Downtown Spartanburg, by a 5-to-1 margin, was the most commonly used word. So we launched a whole new entity based on that feedback, staffed by 2 full-time people, and the Downtown Development Partnership is driving investment to downtown. You see that word cloud. We have had 63 businesses open in 19 months in downtown Spartanburg, and the pipeline is full with 21 projects today. We have more people than ever coming to downtown Spartanburg, and we can say that unequivocally and empirically because we've installed pedestrian counters. So now we're able to measure the effectiveness of different events because we know how many people are coming, what weekends are good, what weekends need to be better, so on and so forth. So you see on average the kind of flow, 30,000 people on an average weekend are coming to downtown Spartanburg. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions, as is Carter.
Council?
Alan, or Carter, I've got a couple of questions. One, on the concentration areas in your slide, and one of them was advanced manufacturing or advanced material manufacturing. And you had that separated from automotive. Does that include injection molding industries, that kind of thing that is supplying automotive, or?
They could be downstream suppliers of that there, but a lot of the advanced manufacturing is kind of a catch-all for not specific automotive components, but they may make things that could go into that, or in the aerospace industry, or even back in textiles.
So you're really not sure that those manufacturers, if they're located in Spartanburg County, why they're here, if it was a result as a tier 1 supplier, or they have been here, or
Some could have been here. Most of them are located here for access to the market, not specific to a B&W facility by any means.
Alan, you mentioned about promoting Spartanburg County, and I don't want this to rub anybody the wrong way, but every time I see things like this, it rubs me the wrong way. And I don't think it comes from the chamber, but you guys have a lot of influence. But there are many times when there's press releases about new economic development or existing places of business or manufacturers that are located within Greer proper or Greer mailing address, and it's listed as Spartanburg, as either a quote directly from someone, or that's how the story was written. And then also the branding, and I think I saw it, that's the only reason I'm bringing it up, I saw it in a slide, was the sign out on 85. Did the Spartanburg Chamber have a lot to do with that?
We did not financially contribute to the sign at the intersection of 85 and 14. I'm assuming that that's the one that you're talking about.
Yes.
We did, when Spartanburg financially contributed to a new sign on I-26, which is exit 1, and that was strategically placed there before the Tryon International Equestrian Games, so when people came south, they would understand that they have indeed entered into Spartanburg County. We have another regional friend that's very liberal with claiming assets as well. Yeah, I mean, as far as commerce announcements are concerned, the Economic Futures Group follows a pretty strict protocol, even in terms of, chronological order, in terms of, comes from DOC first, and then, so we really adhere to language provided by them for the most part. And Carter, you can correct me if I need to be.
That's correct. They drive that there, and then we do, if we're involved with a project, we certainly try to make sure that we have folks involved in all those things.
Sure, and of course that is recognized when that happens. If you're promoting one Spartanburg, we're part of it.
No, and that's why we're here, because we do. It's important to point out that there's one chamber in Spartanburg County. I think there's 12 or 11 in Greenville County, so we do take our county-wide responsibility very seriously. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Gentlemen, hats off on the economic development and recruiting. We obviously see a good bit of that on the Spartanburg side of Greer, and y'all have done an amazing job. What are you seeing, though, in terms of how that is helping to both stabilize and grow the tax base in Spartanburg County? It seems to be that we've got some lingering issues in terms of budget issues and different things like that. As we continue to grow this base, is this a long-term play, or what is it that you see that is going to help improve the quality of life in Spartanburg over the long run?
So are you specifically asking the impact of marketing, or just in general, how do you think we're improving?
More from a tax standpoint. You know, we see a lot of big announcements on that side, but we've not seen, I don't think, a direct translation or correlation to the tax base in Spartanburg County.
I think that's accurate. I think as a state, we still grapple with poverty. And one thing I'm very proud of about Spartanburg is we're very honest and upfront about our issues. Just released a racial equity index report that takes some of the issues that you're alluding to and breaks them down into race sections. So, you know, it's one thing to talk about per capita income, but how are African Americans performing? How are Hispanics performing? So on and so forth. And you're seeing community and economic development organizations in Spartanburg now leveraging that report and using that report to take targeted interventions. You may have also read that we're struggling as a state as it relates to education. We have so much work to do there. In fact, the state of Mississippi has passed us on math and science scores. We used to be able to say, thank God for Mississippi. We can't necessarily say that anymore. So we have so much work to do. Per capita income can solve some of those problems you're talking about, and there's two ways to improve per capita income. That's get the low performers up to a higher performing wage, and then do what I mentioned earlier and recruit higher wage jobs to a community. But it's such a holistic issue, because one of our issues in South Carolina is we don't have very high education attainment. So it makes it very difficult to recruit corporate white-collar type jobs. And there are other issues related to that as well, but I'll give you an example. North Carolina has 12 Fortune 500 companies, Georgia has 16, and we have 0. So, you know, I think our challenges obviously aren't unique to Spartanburg, but we have acknowledged them, and we are taking some targeted interventions to hopefully address them in the long term.
Excellent job, by the way, on I can't think of the name right now, but the Spartanburg Indicators. I think that's a great program. You've got an excellent track record with that now for a number of years, and I think that can be beneficial to both the city and the county in the long run. Good work there. Others?
I hear good reports on Spartanburg County schools. Of course, I've been to a couple of schools like Norman, and we were at, is it Spartanburg High that's still in a new?
Right.
Yeah, right beside it, sort of there, yeah. So some wonderful campuses there, outstanding. Yeah. It's good to see the tax dollars going towards that.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate the update. Welcome you back anytime. Thank you.
Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for us. Ms. Ann Cunningham, our Director of Parks and Recreation, and I see a number of her department here this evening, are here to present their annual report. Ms. Cunningham, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to take this opportunity to review some of the highlights from each one of our divisions, as well as department projects contained in the 2018 annual report for the Parks and Recreation Department. A hard copy will be provided to each of you at the conclusion of this meeting. The Administrative Division ensures progress towards accomplishing action improvement items outlined in the City of Greer Strategic Plan. Some of these accomplishments include new and diverse programming, upgrades to equipment and park amenities, supporting community events, utilizing social media platforms to promote our programs and events, to conduct operation efficiency evaluations by distributing customer service surveys to solicit feedback for improvement, and long-term planning to ensure prosperous and adequate growth for our department. Also listed are various numbers representing staff, volunteers, programs, and revenue that I'll discuss further in the following slides. In our Recreation Division, We offered a total of 45 programs and hosted over 77,600 participants. There was a total of 519 rentals, and this number is derived from rentals of our recreation centers, buses, and Kids Planet shelters. Some of our more popular new programs this year include online YouTube channel ham radio classes and senior fitness classes. These numbers represent the 4 different types of events in our events division: internal, rentals, weddings, and special events. We facilitated 769 total events. This number includes 356 internal reservations, 237 external rentals, 98 weddings, and 78 special events. Our events had over 140,000 people in attendance, and we generated more than $185,000 in revenue. In addition to 3 Greer Cultural Arts Theater performances, our Cultural Arts Division hosted 3 juried art shows, 6 weeks of Tunes in the Park and Greer Idol, 7 weeks of Tall Tale Tuesdays, and 4 weeks of Camp Arc. We had 680 participants, more than 700 volunteers, and over 15,000 people in attendance at our cultural arts programs this year. This division also participates in department and city events such as the International Festival, Freedom Blast, and the tree lighting ceremony. The handouts of our annual report that you'll receive are somewhat different from those that we distribute throughout the year. We thought tonight would be a great opportunity to show a little artistic creativity, and we created pop-ups of trees in the park and the building from the actual renderings of the artists. We hope you enjoy. Our Cultural Arts Division will be responsible for the operation of our Center for the Arts and surrounding park. This venue will be completely developed to include performing and visual arts, walking trails, and an amphitheater, educational, rain gardens, a playground, and infrastructure that will enable the park to host festivals and events. The Center for the Arts facility will include large classrooms for pottery and art classes, rentable studios for local artists, a theater that seats approximately 125 people, a formal lobby, and new office space for our Cultural Arts Division. A Recreation Trails Program grant for $100,000 was secured to assist with the construction of the trail. It will serve as an extension of the City of Greer's downtown walking and bicycling master plan. The trail will be 16 feet wide and include wayfinding signage and an information kiosk. The amphitheater will serve as the hub for outdoor entertainment in the park. It will seat approximately 75 people with complimentary views of the stage from throughout the park. A playground will be installed in the northwest corner of the property and will feature a tower with orbital and climbing play structures. It will be surrounded by seating for parents and information kiosks on the trail and a separate parking lot adjacent to the playground. This circle graph illustrates the breakdown of participants by sport in our athletics division. Youth baseball is our largest program. However, youth basketball and flag football are growing rapidly. We had over 2,500 participants in our athletic programs this year. Volunteers gave more than 7,000 hours of their time to coach, participate on committees, and help at tournaments throughout the year. The Grounds Maintenance Division is responsible for 19 parks and 12 facilities that make up approximately 150 acres. Preparing athletic fields, ensuring playground safety, event setups, project management, and coordinating community projects are just a few examples of their responsibilities. Our ground supervisor obtained his Certified Playground Safety Inspector certification this year, and we now have 2 Certified Playground Safety Inspectors on staff. This slide shows our year-end review by the numbers. In total, our department offered 189 programs, generated over $440,000 in program and rental revenue. We had over 16,000 registered participants, more than 1,300 volunteers that gave 14,365 hours of their time, and we currently have 17,312 social media followers. We obtained over $200,000 in grants, $34,280 in sponsorships, and in-kind donations totaled $16,900. This list represents some of our highlighted projects from 2018, and I'll go over each one briefly in the following slides. The Century Park pedestrian bridge is a pre-engineered steel truss bridge. It spans a length of 70 feet by 8 feet, made of unpainted weathering steel, with 2 feet by 8 feet EPA hardwood decking. It's used by pedestrians as well as our grounds maintenance staff for transporting mowers, ATVs, and other equipment to both sides of Maple Creek. Installation was completed in January of 2018. New basketball backboards, rims, and height adjusters were installed at Victor Gym at the end of October. The gymnasium floor was polished and resurfaced in November, and permanent pickleball lines were added the following month. New vanities were installed in the restrooms to meet accessibility requirements. A monument was unveiled at Victor Memorial Veterans Park to honor soldiers that served during World War I. The monument was dedicated during the Veterans Day ceremony on November the 10th. The brick house on the city-owned property adjacent to South Suba Road Park was demolished, and in 2019, trees will be removed and a pervious surface will be created to relieve parking issues. Alta Planning and Design completed the master plan for the renovation of Kids Planet. Improvements include new playground equipment, better vehicular parking, sidewalks and accessibility, signage, landscaping, and meeting ADA requirements. Multiple public workshops were facilitated in 2018 to generate community support to obtain the preferred conceptual design. Demolition will begin fall of this year, and a newly renovated playground venue is scheduled to open in the spring of 2020. New doors and programmable locks with timers were installed in the outdoor restrooms adjacent to the tennis courts at the Tryon Recreation Center. Existing wood siding and trim was replaced, and this project will be completed with new pathways and modifications to the restrooms in order to meet accessibility standards this year. New playground equipment for ages 5 to 12 was installed at Wards Creek Park in June. The new design features multiple slides and a rock climbing wall. The Parks and Recreation Department purchased 150 new Christmas banners for the LED light poles along Highway 29. These banners, designed by Steve Owens, were installed by our grounds maintenance staff in November. Areas in front of and beside the new restroom building at Century Park were infilled with concrete to allow for increased accessibility by our patrons. And the following list shows our 2019 highlighted projects. To complete Center for the Arts renovation and open in the fall of this year, Kids Planet playground renovation begins. To install accessible pathway and curbing at Century Park. To add park restroom facilities at Victor Park and Turner Field. Also add an accessible parking area at Turner Field, adjacent to the restroom facility. Complete the installation of the new parking area at South Suba Road Park. Install shade structures at our ball fields at Country Club Road Park. Continue to address the needs of visitors to our downtown area during the Streetscapes project through our ambassador program, and to obtain cost estimates for implementation of our downtown walking and bicycling master plan. I'm very appreciative for the support and advocacy of our Recreation Association Board of Trustees, our ad hoc committee representatives, the Greer Cultural Arts Council, and many volunteers that just give countless hours of their time to ensure that we offer quality recreation programs. I'm also grateful for the dedication and the hard work of our staff. This concludes my presentation, and I thank you for the opportunity, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Council, floor is open for questions, comments.
And do we have any plans for any, I know it's part of the trail system, do we have anything planned for some of the natural areas and places where people could go and walk and train, or, whatever we're looking to do? Is there anything like that coming online anytime soon?
Actually, our Kids Planet renderings that we have, there are 6 different fitness areas designed along the trail that surround Kids Planet. They'll expand the trail, and put 6 stations out there for people to walk the trail, and have different fitness stations to go through as you're walking. So we have that scheduled for the spring of 2020.
Anything over there on Country Club Road? I know that the river cuts through there, and we've got a lot of that property
We do.
That's
It's
available.
beautiful back up in there too. It's I'm glad we have it. I think the biggest issue for Country Club, and we've discussed this, certainly in our department, is accessibility to that land. Whereas it's gated on Country Club Road, if we can access the other part from another road, whether it's Gap Creek Road or Highway 14, to be able to come in from the other side, I think you can really make a nice park where you can offer something totally different on the other side, whether it was trails along the river, any type of play areas for children and parents to go, and disc golf, or it could be anything. I think it's just wide open opportunity for us.
I know Alan's here tonight. It reminds me of the Cottonwood Trail Systems down in Spartanburg. That's a really neat little. It's nothing fancy that I remember. I've been on it a few times, and I know they just kind of cut some trails out around the river, and I think put some mulch out. It's just real basic, but it draws a lot of runners, and and Spartan High is right there around the corner, and I know they have a really competitive cross-country program that I think runs that trail quite a bit, and I'd love to see something like that here to where we could, start to attract more runners and just get people outside. I think people are looking for more activities where they can just go and take a walk in the woods and do so in the city. I think that'd be really convenient and nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great trail, so I'd love to have something like that here. I would. And a lot of people go down and use the creek, big fish, just walk. So it's beautiful back up in there.
It is nice.
It is. And the cross-country team at Greer High School actually uses, they cut through our property and go down by the river too.
Okay, good.
They're using it, we just haven't cut a specific trail there, but yeah, I'm glad they're using it.
Yeah, I know I said in my prayer earlier I was thankful for the rain, but I hope we get some clear days so they can continue the work on the Cultural Arts Center. I've noticed, I've been by there several times, and I've noticed that they haven't been able to work, moving the dirt as much as they'd like because it has just been underwater.
It is, it really is. We're waiting for dry weather, so we're praying for that. And the building is on schedule. I think we're scheduled to open mid-May, or to get our certificate of occupancy in mid-May so we can start moving in. And then right now it's about a month behind the park. So we're just, like I say, we're praying for good weather.
Others?
You'll do a fantastic job of keeping up all the parks.
All right, thank you.
Really good.
Thank you. I have a great team. Great leadership.
Indeed you do.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update.
Ms. Cunningham, are you going to distribute those this evening? You have them? Okay, we have those for you. Very good.
Yeah, I can't wait to see my pop-up trees. I want to see what Mr. Watts has been doing lately.
Cut them up by
Mr. Driggers, your turn to follow these great two reports that we've had.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be back with you. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. We do now have the results of our National Citizen Survey. We are tabulating that information, kind of digging into the numbers, diving into those numbers right now. We do intend to present to you during your strategic planning retreat information on that, and so we've had very good participation. Mr. Sale headed up that project for us, and no huge surprises for us as we work through that data, but I do think it's certainly information that we will want to see how we're moving the needle relative to our community's perception of our services, the things that we do well in those areas that we can improve upon. So we'll be sharing more specific information with you when we gather. More specific to that, the reminder that our council retreat is scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, March 5th and 6th. That date has been placed out there for quite some time now. I do indeed hope that you have it on your calendars and that your schedule will allow you to be with us. We are in the process of finalizing our work schedule for those 2 days. We do want to make sure if there are items for discussion that you want to make sure we spend time on, please let us know that. Many of you have sent information over to us, and we're capturing that, and we're building that agenda. As always, it seems that we have more topics than there usually is time for us to cover, and so we need your input to help make sure that we're allocating sufficient resource of time to those items, particularly that are of interest to you. But we'll keep you very, very busy for those 2 days. Again, Tuesday, Wednesday, March 5th and 6th, we'll be gathering here at City Hall. We're finalizing some of those agenda schedules tomorrow, so we'll have information coming out to you specific to times on that as well. So look forward to that. A couple of things we want to make you aware of. Our police department is now active in their most current Citizens Academy. That is a program that we have participated in for a number of years now. We have great interest in the community. We have a alumni group that meets through the Citizens Academy as well. They've been a great resource for us. As you're aware, our fire department is also now doing that program. We think that this has been one of the most successful opportunities we've had to bring the community in to see how we operate, to see what takes place in both our police department and our fire department. But we do have an active program taking place now over at the police department. Our Track It software, it's one of those areas that we made one of our largest investments this past year. You appropriated resources for us in our current year budget. We are moving along well in that process. It is taking great resources of our folks in our accounting department, administrative department, and specifically those folks in building and development standards as well. We want to give you an update as well on that program as part of your planning session. There's some information that's coming through that we're learning that we want to make sure that you're aware of as we've approached this process, and we're confident that we are on schedule for implementation of that, being on schedule. So very, very glad that that's happening. Our leaf season has come to a conclusion. We are in the last process of making those final rounds to see if someone may have left something out there for us that they didn't get out during that normal schedule. Skipper and his crews are always very diligent in making sure that we give that last look, that last sweep around the city. But that leaf season has concluded, and we're finalizing that program now. As a reminder, your ethics reports are due, and so we always bring those reminders to you, but March 30th is the deadline. If you need any assistance whatsoever, please let us know. Ms. Duncan is available to assist as well. Remember, those are all online, and it is each individual member's responsibility to make sure that those are completed and completed on time. Unfortunately, there are penalties associated for late submission of those documents. Your annual ethics reports are due by March 30th. Things are moving forward on our Center for the Arts, and gave us an excellent update on that. Certainly available if you have any questions as we continue to move forward. Our biggest challenge obviously has been the weather relative to our part of that project, but things are moving along on budget and on schedule inside, and so we're very, very glad of that. Our streetscape project is continuing. Best updates, I would certainly say, you can retrieve at futuregreer.com. There are weekly updates to that. You can see photos that are being posted regularly. And if you've not had the opportunity on that site, you can experience the time-lapse photography that we're doing there. It's a great way to kind of see how that project continues to move from week to week as we move forward. But we are on schedule and moving forward with that project as well. CPW has completed most of their work. Streets are back open to two-way traffic in the downtown area, and we're continuing our work in the 300 block of Trade Street, and also some additional work on Randall Street as we're making cuts and preparing for work on each of those ends as well. But things are progressing well. We continue to communicate with our businesses, our merchants in the downtown area. We're receiving very positive feedback from those folks as well. Use of our electric vehicles is growing, and we're very, very pleased to report that. That's catching on. We're making some modifications to the number of vehicles that we're running based on ridership, but we're continuing with the schedules that we have published, and I'm glad that we're able to make that service available to our community as we continue through our streetscape project. As we all know, that's termed as Synergy. The branding of that is going really well. Mayor Danner had an opportunity to share with the Chamber of Commerce this past week an update on that project. Very well received as we continue to move forward as well. I believe I have 4 or 5 upcoming speaking engagements with some of our clubs and organizations in the community, so there's great interest. Folks are reaching out to us and asking us if we will come in and share with them about that project, what we're doing, and how they should expect to be impacted by that project moving forward as well. Those are the items that I needed to request of council, to inform council of at this point. Your agenda certainly identifies several items for executive session. I'm available to answer any questions you may have relative to the report. And as we move forward toward executive session, we'll have additional information to share with you at that point as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Council, I think it...
My apologies. I was reminded. Please, my apologies. I did invite Kirsten Presley in this evening, an omission on our part in getting it listed on the agenda, but one of the things that we try to do periodically through the year as well is we bring their monthly report to you to give you some additional information. I had previously asked Kirsten if she would attend tonight to do that, and I wanted to make sure under my section of that report that we provided that opportunity. Again, my apologies for omitting that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Here tonight to just provide you with a snapshot of what is occurring in the municipal court right now. The best way to do that is to go over our January numbers, and that kind of gives you an idea. It'll show you January in comparison to the prior year, and it'll also show you the 2 months prior to that. So January 2019, we had 430 cases that were disposed of by staff, and we had 524 cases that were filed by police officers. From December 2018 to January 2019, that was an increase of cases filed of 84%, which is common. December is usually a lower number. Officers have other things to do other than just writing tickets. They're in they're watching for shoplifting, they're working traffic, they have a lot of other things other than just proactive charges that they can make. So that's normal for that time of the year. The cases disposed increased by 16% because it gives us a little chance to catch up during that time of the year. We have a little less court. We usually have one less court date in December and January, so that does allow staff a little time for catch-up. Comparing January 2018 to 2019, we had disposed cases decreased by almost 15%, and cases filed increased by 18%. Our warrants issued for January was 168. We had 111 arraignments. That's the number of defendants. Usually defendants have more than one charge, so those 111 people had a total of 191 charges that needed to be arraigned, or that's when their bonds are set. We issued 11 bench warrants. That has been, slowly we've been getting back to the bench warrant process. As of last August when I spoke to you, there were some pretty major changes in how we have to process our court cases that came down from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So it's taken a while to kind of get a hold of that and get those processes in place. So you'll see the numbers will continue to go up as far as bench warrants that are issued. It's a much slower process now to do that. And once those are issued, that gives the police department more to serve, so that number will increase as well. Search warrants have increased. We had 16 of those during January, which is a pretty good amount for 1 month. Those are really dependent on the types of crimes that we have and what type of evidence the police department needs to seek for those cases. As far as our financials, we had from December to January, we had a 7.8% increase. So the total revenue was a little over $16,000. That's the money that stays in Greer. The total collected was a little over $45,000, but the majority of that money is always going to go to the state in the form of fees and assessments is how they term them. The victim assistance funds, we stay in the city, and those go for exactly what it says. Those are to help out victims of crimes, and those are specified by law, and those are usually used by our victim advocate, Megan Weigel, in assistance with those people. Some other January activity. January, again, is we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. So traffic court is 4 times a month on Wednesdays. If we have 5 Wednesdays, we take one of those as an administrative day to catch up. General sessions preliminary hearings for Greenville County are always the first Friday of the month, and those are just for general sessions, your higher level cases. Probable cause hearings for those, and those can be anything from a traffic charge all the way up to murder cases. We had domestic violence court on January the 10th, which we have every second Thursday of the month. And we had a plea day on January 10th. Those are a precursor to jury trials. Normally, Suzette Kimmons will schedule about 65 trials for a week of jury trials, which is a tremendous amount of cases when you look at they take anywhere from 2 to 8 hours per case. She schedules that many knowing that they're going to work that many out. That's what the plea day is for, so that when we get to the actual jury trial week, instead of 65 cases, we usually have about 5, much more manageable. A lot of work on her end to start with, though, to get rid of those. General information for what we have going on right now is, of course, expungements. I always have to put that in there. Last fiscal year, for the entire year, I had 291. We've already passed that with 299, and that's because every year there's new legislation passed that adds more crimes that can be expunged. So we don't get any assistance as far as funding for that. They have to, by law, be free on our end, but they do take a lot of time, anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour per expungement, and it passes through about 5 people before it's finally signed off in the end. Training has started back. This is the major part of the year where training is for most courts. It starts in January and it goes through August, and so from this forward, I'll have people in training the majority of the time. It just happens to be when the best training is available, so we'll have a lot of training coming up. There's a new computer system we're told is coming. The state has decided that what we have now is outdated, so they're putting together a committee to decide what it is that we want in our new computer system. So I don't know what the cost will be, but I think in about 2 years we'll get to learn another new computer system. So I really kind of liked what we had, but that's not our choice. So pending legislation is always something that we track because so much of it impacts what we do on a daily basis. I watch to see what is priority and what is of interest, and right now there's about 6 bills out there that would have impact on us, more impact than most. There's a lot out there as far as what could impact the police department, but for us right now, the two of the major bills are expungement related, which would increase the number of expungements that we have to do again. One is making sure that the defendants know their right to counsel, which was already integrated in the procedures from last year. So I'm a little confused as to why it's going to be covered in a bill since we've already got orders from the Supreme Court on that. There's a new DUI-E law that has come up, and it's driving under the influence of electronic devices. That one could make impact because it would be a city-level charge if that one passes. There's another one for driving under suspension cases, which would impact the police department and the court greatly. It designates which type of driving under suspension cases officers can make a custodial arrest for, and then it designates specifically how we have to dispose of it. It gives the judge pretty much no option. It tells him how to dispose of that case. And then there's one that would require training for all of our judges in reference to animal cruelty, which is the first time I've seen this one come up. But that would require mandatory training for all of our judges. So that would cost money and time as well. And as far as after that, the only other news that I have is that we have been told that our neighbors, the Greenville Magistrate's Office, will be vacating and moving to their new building in June of this year. So that will be a really big change for us, much less convenient for us and for the citizens of Greer. Other than that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Counsel?
When we're issuing the bench warrants, how are they getting in touch with the folks when they're trying to serve them? Are they going out to the houses or calling them, or what?
Before we get to that point, they have had, their case has been set for court. They've been given the paperwork at their arraignment, or if the officer's given them the ticket. From that point, the first time they come to court, their case is not heard. It's continued, and that's by the new procedure we have to follow. So they're sent another notice that tells them their court date and time to appear. They're sent another advisement of rights that tells them what happens and what the dangers are of not having an attorney. And if they choose not to appear after that, then we can proceed with the trial. If they are convicted, then we send them a notice that lets them know that they've been convicted and that they need to come in and set up arrangements with us if they can't pay, or come in and see the judge. If they choose to ignore that, then we issue a bench warrant. All of that is based on the address they've provided. Maybe 50% of the time it's correct. So we're required to send out the notices, but we are not required to send them certified. So they've had many opportunities before they have an officer knock at their door.
It's by mail, right? That's how we're...
Everything is by mail. And of course, even if they come in to see us after all of those notices and after a bench warrant is issued, if they come to us before the police get to them, then they can still pay without going to jail, and we'll recall the bench warrant so that they don't have that on their record. So they have lots of opportunities before it gets to that point.
Are most of the search warrants requested on site, or is there some like probable cause and then they decide, hey, we need to go search this place, and it takes a while and they have an opportunity to clean things up, or how it's normally?
No, most of them it's an ongoing crime scene. It could be a drug scene, or it could be, we've had a recent case where we've had several search warrants come out of. It was actually a murder that occurred in Greenville County, but the precursor to it was in the city of Greer. So that's been an ongoing investigation. As they see a new part that they need of, whether it's a computer or it's actually the crime scene or the initial house, it's an ongoing scene. So they're coming to us, they're needing warrants very quickly. Those search warrants they need to get in before evidence is destroyed. It can be records as far as phone, but most of what we see are going to actually be active crime scenes. So those are coming, sometimes they're in the middle of the night. I have people that come in the middle of the night to do those if they need them. And that's actually a lot for 1 month.
Others? Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate it. Council, we are going to take just a couple of minutes. I know that we've got folks here that we appreciate them coming for various different reasons, but I know spouses and children await, and so does supper in some cases, so I know you may need to get home. So we've got a lengthy agenda. If this is your opportunity to go ahead and slip out. Okay, council, we can get down to business now. Mr. McMahon joins us for items of both old and new business. The first item before us this evening is old business, and it is the second and final reading of ordinance number 5-2019. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Paul Brannon and Linda Leister located on Leister Road from R12 residential single family to I1 industrial district. Any update or new information in regards to ordinance number 5-2019? Mr. McMahon?
No, sir, there's no new additional information.
Entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Comments? Questions? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker, Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. First item of new business this evening is the first reading of ordinance number 6-2019. This is an ordinance to change the zoning classification of property owned by Praise Cathedral Church of God located on Brushy Creek Road from RM2 Residential Multifamily to S1 Service District. Mr. McMahon, information in that regard?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ordinance 6, 2019 is a rezoning request to rezone the parcel owned by Praise Cathedral on Brushy Creek from RM2 to S1 Services. The proposed rezoning request is for future church facilities. Public hearing was held on January 14th. Planning Commission recommended approval of this rezoning request, and that is all the information that I have at this time, but we're glad to answer any questions you may have.
By show of hand, is the owner of the property a representative of the owner of the property here this evening? Record will indicate nobody said so. Entertain a motion to receive.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion.
How soon would they start development of this property?
They haven't submitted anything as far as building plans or anything for us to review so far. I believe they're just kind of trying to be a little more proactive. When they do get ready, it's already zoned the way they need it to be zoned. If you're facing the admin building, it's the lot right next to it.
Which, the 37 and 3375?
It's the vacant lot. It's going to be on the right-hand side if you're facing the admin building there at the church. It's in between the warehouse and
3365.
3365. And right now, it's currently vacant. That's correct, it is vacant. It's currently zoned RM2.
And then behind it is more service district, correct?
Yes, sir, they own the majority of that behind it and to the left. The services that is going to be to the right of the one that is being requested to be rezoned, that came for you back in, I believe, July of 17. It is where the warehouse and the White House sit, right there. I think it's next to the service company.
So when I'm looking at the map, and 3365 is the parcel in question, but you got a PDR, correct, to the left of that, right?
The PDR is going to be right here across the street.
Oh, it's across the street.
That's I believe, the retirement community. that's right
Okay,
across
so
the
we
street.
got S1 that surrounds all of
Yes,
that.
sir.
I see.
Other questions?
Let me throw out a question. Not that I'm opposed to anything the church wants to do. It's, S1 is a fairly liberal zoning, correct? If the church, for whatever reason, were to liquidate it, would that open it up to a development that is counter to what our master plan is?
We consider this for future land use. This would be an acceptable use for our future land use map currently.
S1?
S1, yes, sir.
So cell towers, strip clubs?
That's I1.
No, S1 too, and I believe it's S1 and I1. Adult business.
Referencing sexually oriented businesses, they would not be allowed on this property despite the zoning because of their proximity to residential and church use. I don't foresee necessarily that Praise Cathedral will close their sanctuary. They may move their professional office, but they've invested a significant amount of money across the street. And I do believe they plan to expand recreation in that area, but they just want to match all of their zoning. They certainly can't expand in RM2, so S1 would be an appropriate use, rather than rezoning the entire property to say that it would be office district.
Comments? Questions? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker, Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Item B is the first reading of ordinance number 7-2019, an ordinance to change the zoning classification of properties owned by Greer Professional Park, Gen PA, located on Chandler Road and Memorial Drive extension from RM2 to DRD. At the request of the owners, I believe this item has, they have asked that we hold this item over for consideration in the future. I'll entertain a motion to hold the item, ordinance number 7-2019 over.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions in that regard?
I do have a question. If we choose to hold it over, that doesn't mean it has to, we don't have to set a specific time or date to do that. It can just be,
Has to be put back on the agenda.
Because at their request, my understanding is they asked to assemble some additional information before first reading. So once that information, Kay has it in her office, we would schedule that back on the agenda. She would not have to be recalled.
okay, thank you.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker, Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, item C this evening is the first and final reading of Resolution 2-2019. This is a resolution to accept Manor and Abner Creek subdivision streets, namely Sand Pine Way, Delborn Lane, Grandin Road, and Rosecliff Drive into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Grant joins us for resolution number 2-2019.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. If you would indulge me for 1 minute, I'd like to make an introduction. This is Robert Rue, our new Assistant City Engineer. He's been here about 3 months with us. He is a University of Florida Gator alumni. He has his PE license, and he recently moved here from Virginia. You'll be seeing his name and face on things as we move forward. So I just want to
Thank you.
Welcome to the city.
Welcome to Greer.
Thank you very much. Okay, we do have a subdivision, as the mayor pointed out, the Manor at Abner Creek. This project started in 2014. It's located off Abner Creek Road in Council District 3. All utilities are in, the streets are paved, and the houses is essentially built out. Staff has inspected the construction and believe it meets our standards. Therefore, staff is recommending that Sandpine Way, length of 810 feet, Delborn Lane, length of 1,800 linear feet, Grandin Road, length of 934 feet, and Rosecliff Drive, length of 525 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance. And that's a current picture on your screen there.
Council, upon the recommendation of staff, I'll entertain a motion to receive resolution number 2-2019. So moved. Second. Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions?
That really, from here, it kind of looks like gravel. Is it paved good?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason I ask that is because we have so many streets in Greer, in the city, in different subdivisions that need maintenance, and so taking on more to maintain.
It's just stated, the munis is stated, like it's been there about 4 years.
Yeah, they've been working on that community. That community kind of was at a standstill for quite some time, it seems like.
Others? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Earwood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker, Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. We also have the first and final reading of Resolution 3-2019. This is a resolution to accept Belshire Phase 1 and 2 subdivision streets, namely Belshire Drive, Carlton Court, Daphne Way, Bienville Place, and Lavorne Court into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Grant?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Belshire Phases 1 and 2. This project started, Phase 1 started in 2014, Phase 2 is in 2017. It's located off Brushy Creek Road near Alexander. It's in Council District 5. All utilities are in, the streets are paved, and it's about built out as well. Staff has inspected the construction, and we believe it meets our standards. Therefore, staff is recommending Belshire Drive, length of 1,084 feet, Carrollton Court, 875 feet, Dalton Way, 1,055 feet, Bienville Place, 721 feet, and Lavorne Court, 1,590 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance.
Council, on the recommendation of staff, do I hear a motion to accept Resolution 3-2019?
So moved.
Second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker. Yes. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, last item of business this evening on our regularly scheduled session is the first and final reading of Resolution 4-2019. This is a resolution to accept West Haven subdivision streets, namely Mansfield Lane, Simsbury Way, Southington Court, Harthington Court Lane into the City of Greer street system. Mr. Grant?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is West Haven. This started in 2015. It's located off Woodshaw's Road in Council District 6. All utilities are in, the streets are paved, and it's supposed to be built out as well. That's the current picture on your screen. The staff has inspected construction. We believe it meets city standards. Therefore, we are recommending that Mansfield Lane, 1,521 linear feet, Simsbury Way, 350 feet, Southington Court, 449 feet, and Harlington Lane, 296 feet, be accepted into the city street system for ownership and maintenance.
On the recommendation of the staff, I will entertain a motion to receive Resolution 4-2019.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker. Yes. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Mayor Danner.
Yes. Thank you,
Mr.
gentlemen.
Grant, I'm curious as to how you never capture automobiles on our streets.
I purposely wait till it's clear.
He's a smart staff member. He's taking it from in the middle of the road.
He gets some beautiful clouds, too.
Council, we have a number of items before us in executive session this evening. I will entertain a motion that we adjourn to executive session for matters A, B, C, D, and E. Someone would like to lead us in that, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the contractual matter pertaining to GSP International Airport as allowed by State Statute 30-470A2.
Consider that a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Floor is open for discussion. Hearing none, Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker. Yes. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss an economic development matter pertaining to Project Clockwork as allowed by State Statute 30-470A5.
Consider that a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker. Yes. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss an economic development matter pertaining to Project O'Hare as allowed by State Statute 30-470A5.
Second.
Entertain, that is a motion. We have a second on the floor. Any discussion in that regard? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker. Yes. Mr. Dumas.
Yes.
Mr. Bettis.
Yes.
Ms. Albert. Yes. Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss an economic development matter pertaining to Tribe 513 as allowed by State Statute 30-470A5.
Second.
Entertain that as a motion. We now have a second. Any discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pertaining to the Public Services Department as allowed by State Statute 30-470A1.
Second. I'll accept that as a motion. We now have a second. Any discussion? Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. We stand in executive session. Council, in executive session, we have considered 5 matters this evening and taken no action in regards to those matters, the first of which was a contractual matter pertaining to GSP International Airport. Second matter was to discuss an economic development matter pertaining to Project Clarkworth. Third was an economic development matter pertaining to Project O'Hare. Fourth was an economic matter pertaining to Tribe 513, and the last was a personnel matter. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Duncan?
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Ms. Booker, Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Ms. Albert, Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we stand adjourned.